All right. Hey, welcome to the channel. Got a few people there. Hey, Baldy, how you doing? And hope that everybody logs in here soon. And we've got a special guest today, Pocket EDC, which I've been working on him about a month and a half, trying to get him to come on. And so treat him well because he's a really, really good and interesting guy. He's got a really interesting channel. I like some of the different content that he has on there. It's pretty cool.
Don't give me too much to live up to here.
And hey, Radar, and we'll go around the turn here. Todd, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your channel and what are some of the things you like to do here?
Oh, well, I'm 54 years old. I'm from Eastern Canada. Was born in a small coal mining town. Grew up in the woods mostly. My family on my father's side, my grandfather on his side, that generation was mostly coal miners. My mother's side, her father and their family mostly lived off the land. They were hunters and trappers and woods people. So I was introduced to that at a very young age. Somewhere out there's an 8mm film of me at about 3 or 4 years old, walking out of the woods in the wintertime, carrying a rabbit in each hand. And I was so little, I was probably holding them like this, and they were both dragging on the ground.
That's great.
That's a great way to start life. That's one thing that over here in the UK, we don't have that sort of, history of hunting and that. So it's lovely to hear that.
I think I probably started hunting when I was 9 or 10 years old. So got away from it for a long time in my 20s as I went and did the university thing and then traveled around for work and whatnot, but got back into it as soon as I could. And I run a little YouTube channel out of Eastern Canada where I like to talk about knives and gear for the woods, gear for emergency situations, I guess. Just the tag on my channel is be handy, and to me that means learn to do stuff for yourself so you can learn to do stuff for other people. We're in a world right now where a lot of people don't know how to do for themselves. They depend way too much on other people to fix something in their house, fix something in their car, get into an emergency situation, and they don't know how to handle it. And I think if we all learned a little bit of this and a little bit of that, we all come together, we can accomplish a lot.
Yeah, I think it's really important to, they're just, a lot of people don't even know how to make a fire. And we've just lost that ability, to sustain ourselves that we used to have. But, I noticed there's a Union Jack. Is that a Union Jack back there?
That is. I got one hanging in my window here. That's just because my grandmother on my mother's side was born and raised in England and came back with my grandfather after the war. So I keep a close connection to the motherland, I guess.
There you go, Patty.
And being in Canada, we didn't kick the English out like you guys did. So
yeah, they did.
Well,
yeah,
they deserved it.
And kicked us out.
They deserved it. We didn't stop on you, Patty. I know everybody knows you, but go ahead and introduce yourself and your channel.
I'm Patty from Patty's Potato Peelers. A very simple channel. They just found out recently that I can't do anything technical. I've only been at it 7 years and I need somebody to help me. I am one of the people who you say should learn how to do computers, but I can't get any interest to save my life in learning how to do the technical stuff. But put me in the woods and I'll be all right. So yeah, I have got some things that I'm good at, but technical stuff, definitely not.
Yeah, we were talking about a knife, and we're all on kind of like on the computer, and all of a sudden Patty just disappeared. He was gone. He hit some button or something.
Yeah. They tried to get me to be technical. Never works.
We got Baxter Blades on here, Jason, Baldy. We're getting there. We're getting there. So on your channel, Todd, what do you like to do the most? Do you like to show knives, or you like? I've seen you do some different stuff on there, like your alcohol stove, and you seem like you like to invent little things.
Yeah,
There you go. Yeah.
I have the bad habit of tunnel vision. When I take an interest in something, I have to explore it inside out, upside down, and just master everything I can about it. And then beyond that, throw my own creative spin on it. So like those little alcohol stoves, I got into those when I was into ultralight hiking. And I'm going to make me one of those. Well, by the time I was done, I'd made about 200 of them.
Yeah.
And everything I looked at was, can I make an alcohol stove out of that? Can I make an alcohol stove out of that? And everything I looked at, I tried. So I've got them. I made the old cat can basic ones.
Yeah.
I've made them out of.
The smaller one was a wee penny stove, wasn't it?
I've made the penny stoves.
Yeah.
I made this one here is made out of I think a body spray can.
Did you ever get into with those smaller ones? Did you ever get into using cat litter as a fuel?
Not cat litter. I've used vermiculite, which is like a type of insulation. I've used regular pink insulation. Anything I looked at and said, I wonder. If I wonder, then I try.
Yeah.
Okay.
I done a lot of bushcraft before I started YouTube. I was a bushcrafter, and we the small stoves that I used to hand make, I used to use the cat litter in them, and it is fantastic for cooking. It's getting it started, the hard bit, but once it starts, it burns for ages, and you can cook a proper meal on them.
Yeah. Is that? I don't know that I want to use cat litter though to cook my meals, but
well, you use the fresh stuff.
You Irish are tough, man. You're tough.
Yeah.
You got to use it before the cat gets at it.
Oh, okay. I got
preferably.
it.
Yeah, preferably.
I got it. I've never heard that before, actually.
Well, I would be the same as far as bushcraft goes. I used to try everything, all the different ways of lighting a fire, from flint and steel right the way through to just a modern, what do you call them? It's gone out of my head.
Ferro rods.
Ferro rods, yeah. But I mean, I used everything in between. It was just trying to find different stones that like quartz and things like that to make it work.
That's one interesting thing. Flint is not native to North America.
Yeah.
The only way we can get true flint is in the old sailing ships. They used to take flint from the coast of Great Britain, and they would use it as ballast in the ships. They'd get over here, dump all the flint in the harbor to load up on supplies. So that's how we get flint.
That definitely.
That's interesting. I never heard that. I never heard about the kitty litter thing either, but you never know. Ooh, Stephen, you never know.
It's bushcraft itself is there's so many things to learn in bushcraft. You could do it the whole of your life and still find something new each week to make a video on.
Oh yes, yeah.
Another video that Todd made. I remember watching this, and I shared it, as a matter of fact, because I thought it was a great idea. So it's not that using a bearing is absolutely original, in bow drills. That's been thought of before, but Todd, you used a fidgeter. Fidget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a great idea. I really did. They're lightweight, easy packable, and they do a fantastic job on a bow drill. I mean, that just makes it so much easier.
I originally made one where I took a block of wood and I bought a bearing and put it in the block of wood.
Right.
Then one day I happened to be looking at the fidget spinners in the discount bin at the dollar store or wherever, and I thought I could use that to make a bow drill.
Yeah.
And that's something that probably 90% of households have one kicking around the junk drawer that the kids don't play with anymore.
Yeah, that's a great idea, man.
Yep.
If you guys haven't seen that video, you ought to look it up on Todd's channel. It's pretty cool. I think it is an absolutely great idea because they're so light, and easily packable. It's just a super idea. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just checking out the comments here. So Todd, you been carrying anything lately? Like today, your EDC?
What did I carry today? I've been using this thing here an awful lot. This little hide and drink pouch. And I keep a little, that's just a cheap little police special rechargeable flashlight I got at a hardware store. And I got to do a video one of these days. I've got an O-light that's similar, and the O-light's much more expensive, but I think this is every bit the light the O-light is, and it was like $15, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a shame.
My little Boker pen. It's a little, you're going to find words escape me.
Yeah, that's all right. You're in good company.
Whatever the little thing there, but this is a great little pen because it's got a little T6, T8 Torx bit in it. So if you ever carry a modern knife, that's the majority of the things holding your scales on or holding your pivot in. So it's great if you need to do a little adjustment on your knife.
And then Boker knives are not that expensive compared to a lot of them out there.
Well, I guess it depends on the brand. I have one Boker knife that I got. And it was a Boker Magnum. And it was fit and finish is terrible on it. It was hot spots everywhere. The blade had terrible play in it.
Yeah.
But it's Boker Magnum. I talked to HT, Harold over at HT's EDC, and he told me Magnum is their very, very bottom of the line.
Yeah.
He said Tree brand is the one you want to look for the more budget friendly, but still good quality. I
tell you what, I just think it pays to have a quality flashlight. And so many years I used flashlights in law enforcement. I used it in, the Marine Corps and just, around the house, and they were always breaking down. And man, I can't even remember the brand anymore. It was those, Maglite, right? Yeah. And I always get these Maglites, and I thought they were really good. And then, they'd end up breaking in like 6 months. And finally I broke down and picked up a good flashlight, and it was awesome. I've had them for years now without them breaking. So, just really, it pays to have a good flashlight.
Oh, it does. One you can rely on. And I see a lot of people debating now what's better, a rechargeable or one that takes batteries. Rechargeables easier on the pocketbook battery wise, but if you're not always in a place where if your rechargeable goes out, you can recharge it. So batteries are nice. So that's an interesting discussion to have.
Well, yeah. So I've got a rechargeable. I think you do too, don't you, Patty? Isn't yours rechargeable?
I'll be honest, I carry both types. I carry a rechargeable and I carry one battery. One's on my key ring and it's rechargeable, but the one that I usually put in a little slip, I carry my pen and a little torch in a slip.
Right.
I mean, that's just battery. It takes a wee AAA battery, easy to get them.
The nice thing about this one is it's rechargeable, but it will also take a regular AAA battery as well.
Yeah, that's
Right.
great.
So you can use both.
Right. And I've got both. So I have a little tiny one like you have, Patty, that I use a rechargeable battery in, but the flashlight light is not rechargeable. And then I have rechargeable ones that you could just plug in. And it has a 18650 battery in it. And man, it just lasts forever. I love it. And the other thing is you can plug it in, while you're driving and recharge it, So I like that too. Usually I would do it overnight, so I would use it, and then before I go to bed, I'd plug it in. And the other thing that goes along with that is I have a 30,000 milliamp charger that is solar rechargeable. And so you've got that triple redundancy where when I'm out, and I show it all the time when I show my pack, I've got, that's not the only battery I have, but I like that 30,000 milliamp because it gives you like 12 to 16 charges on your phone. It's really heavy duty. And then the other thing is you could just set it out and it'll recharge itself, so it gives you, I live in an area where there's 3 nuclear plants. So, you never know when things are going to go bad on one of them plants, and you got to grab something and go, right? Because of the fallout pattern of those plants. It's not like they're going to blow up, but with a release, you want to get out of that release area. And that's what a bug out bag is all about, just having stuff handy that you can grab and go.
Yeah. As a bushcrafter, I used to be really into that. One is none, two is one. That was part of 3 years. You just get into that habit of carrying that. I'll be completely honest. I don't carry half of what I used to carry. I sort of tamed it down a bit. I mean, I have all the big flashlights there. I have power banks. But to be honest with you, I can plug into my car. There's a USB charger in my car now. I mean, everything's made for you. I carry spare batteries in the car for another torch that I have in the car, because I find it in the dark, I don't want any more than about 50 lumens. Other than that, you're just blinding yourself in the middle of the night when you turn it on, unless you've got a red lens.
That car is only going to work until the Soviets drop an EMP bomb and fries everything, right? So once they do that, then you're not going to be able to use your car. So
that's the joy of having feet.
I think one of the key tenements to bushcraft that a lot of people don't talk about enough is less gear, more knowledge base.
Yeah,
I think, and again, that kind of lends to the name of my channel. I think you're best set to have a strong knowledge base so that you can literally go out with just what's in your pockets and make your way.
Yeah. I mean,
so in your pockets, and then combine that with your knowledge of herbcraft, trees, and the various resources, and the ability to use those.
Which is where we started, right? We started talking about that, the ability to just go out and survive, and that's really what's missing nowadays. Is a lot of people just don't know how to do that.
No.
And I think it's really important to learn it. And by the way, I thought like I'm self-taught, right? I lived in Miami. I went out to Everglades, lived off the land. I taught myself, bushcraft skills. And, of course I researched and stuff like that. And then in the military, you learn some survival skills. But about 15 years ago, what I realized is, if I had to go out, if I had to survive 2 weeks, no problem, right? No problem. If I had to survive indefinitely, if society failed, if an asteroid hit the earth, whatever, right? I couldn't do it. And so that's when I started down the journey of learning those skills, learning what plants, are helpful. And it was amazing, right? Amazing journey, because you learn that, these indigenous people of the world, they knew all that stuff, right? Your great grandmother knew that stuff. They knew the plants that would reduce inflammation and pain, and they were able to go out and gather them.
Mm-hmm. And that was even in less of a survival scenario. Look back to the Great Depression.
Yeah.
That kind of knowledge came in handy for those folks, because you didn't have money to go buy stuff at the grocery store. You had to, in part, live off the land sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I think of my grannies during the war, they had their gardens was filled with vegetables. Everybody in the street would have had little vegetable gardens, and they could have swapped back and forward for certain veg. And that was, there's another great survival skill. It's one of the things that I used to think about trying out in some of my little, because I never went to campsites. I always went somewhere wild and camped somewhere wild. Now, I don't mean it's like a huge forest, because we don't have that many over here in Northern Ireland, but I used to pick somewhere that's out of the way, forested area. And I used to just practice the things, think about the scenarios where I would need to do it if I had to come here with a family. And it would be incredibly difficult to do, incredibly, unless you had some sort of stash to get you started. Because, I mean, you do need some sort of backup in a country like this where there isn't infinite wildlife running about the place. We don't have big animals about that we can shoot, or we can't carry guns. So you're limited in what you're going to be shooting. Trapping is more the thing that I want to learn more of. But I just find the whole self-survival thing. I mean, I don't know many kids now who could even put a tent up.
Right.
Because they don't go away. When they go on a school trip, they stay in a hotel now. They don't go camping.
Yeah. Basic survival. Basic.
Shelter, fire, find something to eat. I mean,
when if I want to go on a hike and camp for a weekend in the woods, I take what I need, but when I get there, I leave that in the bag. I say, now, if I didn't have that, how am I going to start a fire? If I didn't have that, how am I going to deal with my water situation?
Yeah.
And I will rough it as best I can to practice those skills. But I mean, I've always got my gear as my backup, but that's not my go-to initially. I try to do everything off the land, basically. And
so one thing I wanted to ask you, Todd, given your location, which a lot of new people come on here. So we're talking with Todd from Pocket EDC. He has a new channel. Make sure you guys go and check him out. He has a lot of interesting stuff on his channel. It's okay to say where you live, right, Todd?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay,
so he lives in Nova Scotia. And so one of the questions I had was, what about do you get involved a lot in the water? Fishing, those related type things, dealing with the water. Is that part of you going out in the woods, or is that a different area for you?
Well, mainland wise, when I was a young kid, I mean, I'd get out of school, hop on my bike, and I might have in the wintertime, I might have a trap line or a snare line I'd go check. In the summertime, hop on your bike and head off in the woods and go fishing at the lakes, the brooks, the streams, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Coastal wise, that was more as I got older. Like my father was always saltwater fisherman. Like we didn't have, not at an industrial level. Like I've never been out on a big like lobster boat or big fishing boat, any of that. But we always went fishing out in the Bay of Fundy, which is kind of the waterway between, part of the ocean between Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. It's renowned for the highest tides in the world. The tides will, on a good tide, between a full tide and a low tide, is 35 feet of water.
Boy, that's big.
So do you know how to get seafood from like when the tide goes out? Do you know those kind of things?
Yep, go out, harvest clams,
Right.
a lot of the shellfish, quahogs, bar clams, all of that. Fishing wise, when I was younger, when it was still legal, we'd set lines. You'd run maybe 50, 75 yards, 2 stakes, and run a long line between those, and then have hooks set on those every so many feet.
Mhm.
Tide would come in, tide would go out, and you'd have the fish on the hooks. Now that's not legal to do anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, if things got really bad, those laws wouldn't apply anyhow. So it's good to know that stuff. But
Exactly.
Will's saying here he learned more from his grandmother than anybody else about gathering food, and that's the place to learn it. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But
And we don't have a lot of that generation left.
yeah, I don't. I think the younger generation now, they have no real interest in that. That would be too much roughing it. They're happy with their computers and their
Why
gang.
should I do that?
Yeah, I mean, mine are all computer addicts. All computer addicts.
The sad thing with that was, I mean, when we were all kids, you lived in your imagination.
Yeah.
You know, if you were wanted to play soldier or you wanted to play knights and dragons, you had a stick and a lid off a trash can, and you were a knight.
Yep.
Well, now you can, with the computers, you can literally go and immerse yourself in a world where you can have, you know, the dragons are there, everything. I mean, you don't have to have an imagination anymore.
It's funny. In my day, it was Cowboys and Indians, because that was the movies that I went to see in the picture house. And the nice thing about Cowboys and Indians, they slept outside. They ate big pots with beans and things like that. That's what we brought. That's what we brought with us when we were young to get started. And we'd get a big pot of beans, and dunk bread into it, and your whole adventure starts with that. And
when we went fishing when I was a kid, you'd bring a can of soup or a can of beans with you, and while you're fishing, start a little fire.
Yeah.
Pop open the lid and drop it right in the fire and cook it.
Yeah, I'm seaside as well. My city is right. We have our own harbor and all. It's really nice, and nice beaches and all. But my God, going back to when I was a kid, the beaches, you used to have to get down by 9 in the morning to get a good spot, because in the day they were just full. Now I can walk along that beach, and the only people I'll see during the summer is a couple of dog walkers. They don't even go and swim in the sea anymore.
That's true.
It's like that now here with the sea bass. It's more of a trendy thing. All of a sudden everybody was interested in fishing sea bass. I mean, the sea bass have always been there.
Yeah.
But now it's people for some reason got onto it. And now everybody wants to go sea bass fishing. So
the high end, markets are going for mackerel again. The chefs are now just cooking mackerel, which was used to catch it for bait.
Yeah. That's what we used to use for bait a lot of times on the set lines. That and clams.
You guys, like I grew up in Miami, and it was phenomenal. They had mackerel runs a certain part of the season, and you could go out and literally just put a hook in the water, and they would strike it. There were just thousands and thousands of mackerel, and it was. I mean, we could catch as many as you wanted to catch, and I can remember my dad telling me, after about 10, he'd say, "Okay, we're done." And I'm like, "Whoa, wait," and he'd say, "Nah, that's all we need. We don't need to take any more."
Yeah.
And
do you have smelts down your way?
Yeah, he taught me respect for the environment. But I had a question for Patty. I forgot what it was. Patty, do you know what pemmican is?
I know the name.
Okay.
No, I don't know off the top of my head.
What about you, Todd?
Yep.
Okay. So pemmican is something that the Native Americans used to produce, and they taught the fur traders and the mountain men what this pemmican was, and eventually they taught actually the military guys, the army too. But what it is it's a technique of curing meat, and you take meat, and if you mix that with fat and cook it for a long period of time over low heat, it preserves the meat almost indefinitely. So definitely like 2 years, right? And it's the thing about pemmican is it provides almost every amino acid that you need, which is remarkable. But it's a really good survival food, and you ought to look that up, pemmican, how to make it. But it's just an incredible. That all came from Native Americans. I mean, these people knew how to live off the land.
There's hardtack too.
Yeah, hardtack.
Which is like it's like a hard bread.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Hey, you got any new knives, Patty?
Yeah, I have, but I'm afraid it's a posh one. Well, I'm not afraid it's a posh one. I'm really glad it's a posh one.
Okay, so yeah, we're not haters here. So we know your upper end and all that, but we love you.
I'm definitely not. But this is my new Chris Reeves 31, and it's in Magna Cut, and it's 63 to 64 Rockwell hardness. And this to me is the best version of a Chris Reeve knife. Now, this is the small version. I like it. I can just get my 4 fingers on it, just is enough. It's very comfortable, very secure, beautiful ramp. It's sort of a slight ramp up here. You've got that fantastic jimping. It's some of the best jimping. It doesn't cut or dig into you, but it doesn't let your finger move. And it's got a hollow grind, beautifully thin grind, but it's thick enough to actually do some work.
Yeah.
So I absolutely I can't tell you how excited to have. This is my last Chris Reeve. I've had about 3 of them, but this is the perfect one. It's got a good.
So I remember you saying that the last one that you had.
Yeah, there was a problem with that though. It was too bloody pretty. I got one with a fancy burl scales, a burl wood, and it just looked amazing. But I wasn't using the blooming thing, so I got rid of it. If I'm not going to use them, I attempt not to keep them, especially when you're buying an expensive one. I don't really need it sitting in my drawer looking at me every day saying, use me. So I've had this 3 days now, and it's not been out of my pocket. I've done everything I can possibly do with it, and this is a proper user. Silly price, but a real beautiful. I just like it. It's just a lovely knife.
Oh, man. I want to show these knives. I done forgot the channel I want to promote. Oh, man, this is embarrassing.
Let Todd go first and see if he can remember the name.
Joe. Messer HQ. Messer HQ. All right. So you want to go first, Todd? You want to go? You got something new?
I was just going to jump on. We were talking there kind of about like the elite knives or whatever.
Right.
That's one thing. Like when I go yard sailing or pawn shops or that kind of thing around here, I come from an area that there wasn't a lot of significant wealth. People didn't have a lot of money. They were coal miners. When you were a coal miner, you lived in a company house. Your pay was deducted to cover groceries from the company store. Like you didn't have a lot of disposable income. And so you didn't see a lot of expensive knives. If somebody had a buck, 112 or 110, I mean, people came around to see that buck. Mostly what you would see people have back then would be like little Chinese knockoffs.
Right.
Like this. That's I got another one here. They say China steel right on the blade. You probably see it better on that one there.
I don't like them. I like the Japanese better, like Valors and things like that. I think they were better knives.
Or the ones like this, like a Pakistan knife.
Right.
I mean, these were the kind of knives people had.
Yeah.
So when you go looking for old knives around here, that's the kind of stuff you find.
Do you have that boat knife handy?
Oh, the one I found in the boat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's probably a family knife, right?
Well, that was found. We have a camp back in the woods that we've had since it was built in the 70s. And there was an old aluminum boat. We had to reshore up the foundation on it, the beams that it was sitting on. There was an old aluminum boat in there, and this knife was sitting in that in a pile of rust. And so I took it and I got all the rust off of it and cleaned it up. There's no maker's mark or anything on it. It's a through tang. You can see it pinned on the bottom there. I'm almost tempted to think it was hand forged because there's a lot of, like you can see, there's like a bump here. There's different marks in it that make me think that.
Well, you can tell, like, look at your spine, the spine of it. And if the spine is completely even on both sides, it's not hand forged. But like a hand forge will have very slight variations that your eye will pick up.
You see it's thinner here.
Yeah.
It's up through here.
Yeah, it's hand forged.
Thicker here.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
it looks
Hand
good.
forged.
And I don't know what the bolsters are. They're not
Pewter.
magnetic.
They're
so
pewter.
Yeah, I'm thinking they're pewter.
Yeah.
So,
We talked about that, and some guys said it was tin, but it's non-magnetic, and the color is clearly pewter, and that's really, really cool.
It's a very coarse grain to the bolster too.
Yeah.
I don't know if that shows
What do you
up.
guys think about that knife? Like I think my advice to Todd was just keep it as is because it's really cool the way it is. And you know, he was thinking about fixing it up and stuff like that. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think with a history personally, the history of that knife, I would have that on a plinth somewhere and just because that is proper history.
Yeah. Hey, cover me, guys. I got to go get something.
There, just for Jesse. There's the old crafty.
Yeah.
That was sent to me by JC Mountain Ajar. He's got a channel. He's way down south there in New Mexico. And he sent that to me all the way from there.
Isn't that lovely?
Stainless steel, carbon steel blades on it. Already getting a little bit of a patina on them.
Yeah, that's lovely. And I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that's all the knife we ever need in our pocket, most of us.
Oh, yeah.
But it's, and again, that's the joy of this. You can either get stuck into the history side of it, and then you'll eventually come out somewhere and find another avenue to go. I just don't think this hobby lets you stand still. If you're interested in knives, it's got so much variety in it, and I go from the very, very basic right through the whole spectrum. Now it's taken me 7 years to go through and find out where I want to be at now, but that's the joy of this hobby. It's so interesting.
I got out of carrying a knife for a long time because of the job I do, and I mean I'm a correctional officer, so you just can't carry a knife in prison. No. That's kind of, so I got back into it in the last couple of years because honestly, I wasn't fitting in real good with this new world we have right now. And I wanted to get in touch with things from my past and things I did when I was younger. And one of those things was carrying a knife. And when I got back into it, I was like, holy cow. I went to a Bass Pro to pick up a pocket knife, and they got all these flippers and floppers and things with all these different locking mechanisms and springs. And I was like, good Lord, what happened to knives? So I get into those for a little while because it was just purely fascinating. But eventually I gravitated back to just your old traditional style because really I was looking for that connection to my past. And those were the knives that I carried in my past.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all my knives as a child, as a youngster, was little, what you would probably call a dollar knife that you bought in the shop from a paper racket was in there, and you picked one, or a little cheap belt carry. That's when I thought I'd become a man. When I got my first belt
Yeah.
carry knife, I walked about like Tarzan. I
Yeah,
think my chest grew, and it was
my
amazing.
my first knife when I was a kid it was about that long, and it was a little miniature hunting knife with a bone, like a white and brown bone handle, and the bolsters on it. And I suspect it was one of those things where Dad probably bought a knife and then it had a mini version of it, like a set. So he got the big version and I got the mini one.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so Tony's Ponies wanted me to show my yellow horse. So that's where I went. I'm going to go ahead and show that. All right. So this is the yellow horse. You can see the roper knife up there. And the thing about that is Brian Yellow Horse, it doesn't matter whether it's buck, case, or a yellow horse or a roper. He takes these things apart, and they are just fabulously made. So then he'll reconstruct the knife. And one of the things you'll notice on this knife is you see it's nickel silver liners on this knife. And so a roper normally has brass liners. So he's fashioned, new liners on this knife. The only thing that is left of the original knife is the blade. So these blades are roper blades. You can see right there. And the thing about that is these are just tremendous value. So there's really no difference in this knife than a buck or a case. Because he rebuilds all of those knives, right? So when he takes a case knife, he takes it apart and makes it better, right? And that's why I like these, because they're fantastic values, right? Because it's going to cost you $400 for a yellow horse buck or a case knife, and these you can get for around the $150 range, and it's just fantastic. All of it is real, so that is not plastic. It's all spiny yellow lobster, bloody jasper, real stones in this knife, and just really cool.
Now, I have looked at that knife many times online up here, and it's still a $500+ knife up here.
Yeah, look at Chicago cutlery. I mean, even with the import fees, you should be able to pick that up and get you one for around $175, right? If you get it. Another thing I wanted to say is I got these knives right here. This is a cattaraugus, and that is just a fantastic cattaraugus. And I did a trade with Messer HQ. So if you guys don't know who Messer HQ is, he's one of the original guys I used to watch back in the day, along with Patty's potato peelers. Oh wait, Patty's here. Okay.
Yeah, still alive.
Messer HQ kind of went off the air for a couple of years, and he's just now getting back on. So make sure that you go ahead and look for his channel. He's got a fantastic collection of knives, very knowledgeable, and he's a super nice guy. But I traded for that cattaraugus, which is in great shape, and he gave me a gift. Thank you, Joe. This knife right here, which I'm ecstatic about. It's a sack from the 1960s, I think. It's an otter sack, which is exact same configuration as a Spartan. And you can see the old can opener there, and also the old. Ooh, you also can hear that awesome walk and talk on this thing. the old geometry punch blades. So I think it's about 1960s. It's got, this knife was given to owners of a Mercedes-Benz when they bought them in a special issue. So pretty cool. Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate it. And if you guys check him out, because he used to be really big on YouTube and he took a break. So go ahead and check him out.
I'm subscribed to him.
Oh, yeah. And let's see. Let me get my ugly mug off of here. There we go. What do you do? Don't be sleeping there, Patty. I'm zooming in.
I'm actually going to show. I have a German. This is made in Solingen. It doesn't say by who, but I have a fairly good idea that it's probably Boker.
You think?
Although it does say Putsch on it, Putsch. I think that's the name of a company that they probably gave these out to their staff member. But what I love about this is instead it's two bladed, and the second blade, instead of being just a pen blade, is a lovely little clip point, and I just love that. And again, the snap on this little thing is absolutely every bit as well made as a sack, I have to say. Just beautiful.
I like those little pin blades on them. You find that a lot on those old German knives. They've got a little tiny pin blade on them.
But I love the fact because it's a clip, and these were done on the not the sacks, the other ones. What do you call them? The Sack now owns the company. Oh, it's gone out of my flipping head as normal. Oh, what do you call the other company? You got Sack, and then you had the.
You mean Boker?
Starts with W. Starts with a W.
Wenger.
Wenger. Yes.
Wenger. Yeah, Wenger always had the little clip instead of the pen blade. They had a little clip, so it's more in that Wenger fashion of a knife. But just, I love it. I have to say, I love just getting different ones. I do have quite a collection of sacks, but I also have like George Wolstenholme sacks. Other people that tried to do it, but they could never keep the consistent. Nobody could beat Swiss Army for doing these knives. But some of them, this is a really great example of a very good try. And I like having that.
First, Todd, they're wanting to see your Craftsman knife if you have that handy.
I had that out a minute ago, but not in the close-up. If you want to.
Let's do it again.
There it is.
So that's definitely old timer.
It's on the same frame as I was told, the 350T.
Yeah.
And you got your spear point, or sorry, drop point. I have a hard time getting spear point out of my head. I have too many canoes.
Clip point. That's a clip point.
Or clip point. Yeah. And then you've got your sheep's foot, and instead of a spade blade, you've got a pen blade on it.
Do you know how big that is? 3.5?
It's under 3 inches.
Okay.
It's about 2 3/4 inches.
Okay.
But I made the joke in my video, it doesn't have a spade blade because something this small, unless you're going to spay a chipmunk. I'd hate to try and spay a bull with it.
Well, I heard they spay chickens. I don't know whether that's true or not, but
But that was given to me by JC Mountain-Ajar. He's got a channel where he does a lot of knives and stuff. And he sent that to me all the way from New Mexico.
Yeah, I like knives like that. I really love having, a knife that was made for somebody else by another corporation.
Now here's one, if you don't mind me bringing it up, because I'm curious. I picked this up at a yard sale from a guy, basically, what do you call those guys? Pickers. Right. Basically a picker.
Picker, not pecker.
Yeah. Anyway, and it's an interesting knife, and I've done a couple of videos on it, and I still can't find out anything about it.
Okay.
It's a bone hand. It's kind of like a fish knife style. You've got the bail on the end.
Flip it over.
It's a bone handle.
That thing is so beautiful, man. You did a great job restoring that. I think that's German.
It has no maker's mark on it of any kind.
Yeah.
You've got your clip point blade. Now the blade was chipped and the tip was broken off of it when I got it, so I had to reprofile it.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is the locking mechanism.
Yeah, they're cool.
You have to pull back on this thing to release it.
That's
So German manufacturers often made square bolsters. Like that is square. It's flat across there. It's not rounded. They also were a lot of knives had that large pen that is not hidden. That's indicative of a German manufacturer. And then the bone itself, right, looks robust, right? And Germans were known for doing that. So I think that's German manufacturer right there.
yeah.
Oh, damn, Todd, you got you a fan already. Oxyfee says you're doing an awesome first live. So you got a fan, right?
He's Canadian like me, and he was probably one of my very first subscribers. And he's been awesome. We talk through email and that all the time. He's got a comment on every one of my videos. I mean,
Oh, okay.
he's just a really great guy.
So it's like in the bag, right?
Hmm?
It's in the bag. In other words, yeah, you know he's going to say nice things.
Oh yeah, he's and he sent me. I think I have it right here. He sent me the first knife anybody ever sent me.
Elon's on there,
Right here.
Patty.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
That's
Oh,
a
very
Rough Rider working man.
Very nice.
Beautiful,
Lovely bone.
beautiful.
Rough
You like
Rider.
that knife? You like that, Todd?
Hmm?
Do you like that knife?
I do. I mean, the handles, the bone handles are just beautiful on it.
Yeah. You can't knock Rough Rider for the price and the bone that they die is just amazing.
I'm always looking for knives like that are, you know, I'm not saying that looks like a sod buster, but I'm saying, you know, locking knives in that 4-inch range that have a single blade or a double blade that are just really good working knives, you know.
Well, it's called the working man's knife. That's the name of it.
It's funny. I got my first. This is a Case John Wayne knife, and I'd always seen these, but I'd never actually bought one. And I got this as a gift. No, sorry, I got this in a trade. Look at that. It's a locking blade. It's got a liner lock.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a thumb stud. And I just think that is one of the prettiest knives that I've seen in Case. And then you got his signature on here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Pilgrim, I don't know what you expect from a John Wayne, but I have it a perfect knife.
That's pretty much the exact same pattern as this one.
Yeah, very, very similar. Yeah. Very
That's
similar.
my pathetic John Wayne. You guys missed that. It's a John Wayne impression, okay?
Hey there, Pilgrim.
Oh,
Pilgrim. You gotta put your hand out there, Pilgrim.
It's been a long time since I've done the John Wayne.
Yeah.
Go ahead, do it. Let's see you do it.
Oh, I haven't done it since I was a kid. My voice is probably too deep for it now.
Get off your horse and drink your milk.
There you go.
Yeah, it's I think that's my. Are you sort of investing any time going into traditional knives and trying to find old traditional knives?
I do, and I mean I've got a few. A lot of what I have is for the older ones, the knives that have been passed down through family and whatnot. It's not up here. It's not like it is down there. You guys can go to a pawn shop or a yard sale or a flea market. And I mean, Big J did a video the other night where he went to this flea market. There's a guy there selling knives, and he had to have about 30 feet of table just covered in knives. And
Yeah,
you just,
I'm not the same. In Northern Ireland, we have nowhere that you can buy knives. Very few places. You're very lucky to find anything on like a car boot sale or anything like that. You very rarely find knives on them. So
one of my early videos was a rant where I was in a mood that day, and I've been going to work, and I stopped at the convenience store to pick up a couple things to take into work. And I was thinking about when I was young, and you could go to a gas station or a corner store, and there'd be cheap little pocket knives there. And, I could, as a young fella, go buy one. The person at the store knew my father, like, oh, that's so-and-so's kid. He's, he doesn't mind him buying a knife. And you can't find that now. But I could walk into a corner store where it's taboo to sell a pocket knife, but the whole back wall is lined with rocket propelled explosives. They call them fireworks, but
yeah, no, it makes no sense.
No,
now our laws are even worse than yours, I think.
Our laws are extremely vague and confusing, and for the most part don't make a whole lot of sense.
That's because they're liberal. Liberals don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, check this out. I have not showed this before, but I just love that tiger stripe.
Oh, it's Baxter in here to see that.
And here's the thing, like these things sold out, and I went on another website and I was able to get this knife. And it was Baxter, because like Baxter is the reason why I'm in default right now, because he shows these knives and I'm like, damn, I gotta go get one. And I can't let them get a hold of me. But yeah, I love that tiger stripe. I know it's out there, but I like it. And that black is etched in there into the bone. I just love it. And I'm not shown it, so this is an exclusive. And thank you, Andrew, for costing me more money.
And that's how friendships are born out in YouTube.
I'm telling you, he knows it too. He does it on purpose. I know he sits there at home and he's like, I'm going to buy this knife just to piss Rasputin off, right? He does it all the time.
If you want an example of some older knives that I have, these are ones that came down through family.
Before you get into that, can I just say one thing?
Oh, sure.
I think those are cool. Okay. Unbelievably cool. So it's one thing to have a factory made knife, but it's a whole different thing to have a knife that may have been produced by the farmer down the street who was a blacksmith who had to produce knives for people because they just didn't get the import, right? Mm-hmm. And so you had to make do with what you had. And I think that is much cooler than a factory made knife. I love knives like you're getting ready to show.
Well, these ones aren't hand forged ones, but my grandfather on my mother's side, his brother Leighton was a confirmed bachelor, lived the old way. You would go to his place and there'd be hides on racks drying on his front step. And he had his own little blacksmith shop where he made a lot of the traps and the knives and stuff he used. So unfortunately, I don't have anything of his. I wish I did. Uh-huh. But these are ones that this one belonged to my godfather. And it appears to be an old Schrade deer slayer. But it doesn't have a Schrade or a maker's mark on it. It just has
it's a copy, right?
There was I watched a video and I can't remember whose video it was, but they talked about there was a period after Schrade made them that another company took over temporarily making them. And I can't remember what that company was. I'm wondering if this maybe isn't one of those.
I don't think so. That So what you're talking about is Taylor Cutlery bought the rights to Schrade and started producing Schrade knives. But I don't know. Show that thing again. Show like the handle of it.
It's got, the only thing that's got mark on it is a serial number right here.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if you can really make that out.
And show the handle real close. That is not a Chinese made knife, right? So I think somebody just copied a Schrade knife.
My father gave me this. You can see it's got my godfather's name on it.
Yeah, look at up here. You know, the up above the thumb the jimping there on the thumb area. Yeah, that's not like a factory knife. I think that's a custom knife, I'd say.
Well, he was told it was hand forged.
Yeah, I believe it is.
So it's entirely possible that somebody hand forged it in the style of the Schrade Slayer.
Right.
It looks hand forged.
Cool knife, man. I love knives like that.
And then this one I know is factory made because the factory is right here in Nova Scotia, and it's a Groman. And this belonged to a great uncle.
Okay, hold on. Let me get you solo there, brother. Okay.
And that is a Groman 101 Skinner, and they still make it to this day. Man,
I'd love to get a Groman. I'm still trying to get that. Let me. I apologize for this. Rubinox Outdoors, if I'm mispronouncing that, he just showed a Groman, and man, that's on my list to get.
Rubidoux Creek.
Yeah, Rubidoux Creek. He just showed a Groman. It's not a belt knife. It's kind of like a belt knife. It's a bird and trout knife that they make. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
That factory is right here in Nova Scotia where they make these.
Are you familiar with them, Patty? Groman?
Yeah, they've actually started selling them here. That some of the retailers now have got Groman knives in, and they are a beautiful knife. I had a Chinese copy for years. I think it cost me about 10 quid from AliExpress years ago. It was a very, very good copy, I have to say, because I used it and it was great. But yeah, I would love to get it. I'll probably get an original one. It's funny. I was actually looking at it was a smaller bushcraft knife. That it was nearly more like like a big camp knife. But it would definitely be for more food prep or skinning. And they weren't over expensive, but they're not cheap. I have to say that I'm not sure what price they are in Canada, but it was a fair price. But it's something, I love knives, all sorts of knives. So it's one, especially a Canadian knife that I don't know whether the Canadians have any other big makers there.
That's but the only one I've heard of.
Yeah, Groman's the only one that I've heard of or seen.
Yeah, they can be expensive. You can go to their website and you can basically custom build them. You can choose what steel, you can choose what handle material, what the sheath is like. So they can get pricey if you want to kind of like go into the Buck Custom site,
I think they're a good knife though.
Oh yeah.
They've got a good reputation. And man, I tell you what, that Canadian belt knife is just hard. It's just hard to beat. It's got classic design for skinning.
We've got the history. We had the Hudson Bay Company here.
Yeah.
This country was founded on trapping.
Yeah.
And where we went wrong in the last few years, I don't know, but maybe it's because we didn't kick the English out. I don't know.
It's funny. I just watched a series on the Hudson Bay. There was a TV series, a documentary, and boy, what an interesting bit of history that was. An amazing bit. And some of them boys, where they traveled and how they got to places, it was unbelievable. Unbelievable story. I have to say, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and it's Yeah, basically with Native Americans, they were allied, so they did a really good job, um, customer service, I guess you would call it. They did a really good job of, of working with Native American tribes and respecting their rights, and they were allowed to operate, because of that.
Yeah, those early settlers and the ones who explored to get to set up the roots and all, they couldn't have done it without the locals. It was
Oh
they
no,
used all the locals. Yeah,
they never
they
would have
couldn't.
survived.
No, they just couldn't have. And they came back, after 2 or 3 years, and they were completely different men than when they left. They had become so they, they had learned to do everything with a knife and carve. They learned how to, to build. They were taught everything by the natives, and that's just what a wonderful experience that must have been.
And that kind of goes back to, like I say, when it comes that one tenet of bushcraft, knowledge is one of the most important things. Do you have enough knowledge to survive with what you have in your pockets?
Yeah. And it's the same with nearly every country. Like you can go to Australia and the Maoris, anywhere you've got tribes that have lived on that and lived in harsh conditions and know how to do it. You don't have a chance unless you get their help, because the men then we consider real hard men who could have put up with anything, but they couldn't have done that without the basic little native person who was going to show them how to even get direction in forests. I mean, they had no way of doing it. You didn't have satellite or anything. These boys could take them everywhere just by have done it before and remember where to go.
It's a basic tenet of human experience. I mean, if you took a factory job somewhere, you couldn't walk into that factory and know what to do. You rely on the people who were there before you have the knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah. No,
I don't know. I tell my wife that I could do brain surgery, and I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night, but she doesn't believe it. But I bought this little kit, right, for it's a surgical kit, right? And I bought that little kit, and I've done a lot of research. Not only that, when you have a military background, you kind of know about trauma and how to treat trauma, like most people don't, right? And I told her, she's like, why do you have that thing? And I said, well, if the grid goes down, like we're talking prepping, right? Prepping. So I told her, if the grid goes down, you might get shot and I might have to do surgery on you. She's like, yeah, you are not touching me with that. And I'm like, babe, if I don't, the hospitals may be closed down. I may not be able to get you to a hospital. And so, me being able to do, basic life-saving steps on you would be important. She's like, you are not touching me with that. You're not touching me. I'd rather die. So, yeah.
There's an interesting bit of knowledge to go along with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Pine resin or spruce resin. That sap leaks out of pine or spruce trees.
Yeah.
Well, you can use that to close a small wound, and
you can use it for anything.
Yeah. It's an antiseptic. It's a lot of the guys who.
It's a glue.
Fire starter.
Yeah. And you can boil it down. If you boil sap down, pine sap down, it'll settle your stomach if you have like a stomach virus or something like that. And
you can chew it like a gum.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. And pine needles, like if you hike, right, you notice you feel good, right? So you're out exerting energy, but you still feel good walking, hiking in the woods. And the reason is the pine needles exude an antihistamine, which makes you feel good. So taking pine needles and rubbing them in your hand like this and smelling them is an antihistamine that asthmatics can use, in a situation where, you're not able to get those things through a pharmacy. And also you can rub it on your skin, pine needles on your skin, that then and histamine on your skin prohibits bug bites. So yeah.
Randy brings up a good point too. You can boil the needles in a tea to make a pine needle tea, and that's got vitamin C in it.
Yeah, you can make tea out of it, all kinds of things.
There's one lovely pine, and I'm not sure the name of it, but the pine needle tea is like a lemon flavor, and I mean a really good lemon flavor from the pine needles themselves. There's one in a park just down the road. There's only one in the whole park, and this park has all sorts of different firs. And this one tree, and before I used to go camping, I could have cut a handful of them, twisted them, took them with me, and they were beautiful tea.
I just got to pop over for a second, guys. It's starting to rain. I got to let my puppy dog in.
No problem.
So, my favorite is mushrooms, right? So mushrooms are just great. And not only are they have nutritional properties, they make you feel really good.
Yeah, well, you've got the hallucinogenic ones as well. They make you feel really good. Yeah.
I was wondering if you were going to pick up on that, Patty. I was wondering.
Where I used to camp, there was a little patch, and they used to grow that. You used to get the little tiny ones that would have blown your head off. And there was a couple of people used to come up every now and then. I would see them coming up in the morning, and they'd go in there and they'd start picking these, to be on the hands and knees, picking the wee mushrooms out of this, just this one patch, and off they'd go, and you know what they're going to do for the rest of the day.
Elon says he carries a tourniquet because of you. That's good, Elon.
Yeah, Elon, I always carry a tourniquet. I've got my jeans on. There's my tourniquet there. And it's just a piece of paracord, but it has a Canadian jam nut in it. And that's what I use as a tourniquet. I have them all over the place. Little tourniquets. I just stick them in my jeans fifth pocket, elastic band, and they'll also do for carrying sticks. I make them big enough and long enough that they're useful for carrying, tying up. So, I mean, yeah, things like that I find interesting. I want to, expand on that. That's actually come apart. But this one here, I've had this for years. And
we ought to do a show on that, Patty. Just talking about this stuff. I know we're running a lot, but basic things like a tourniquet. I don't think most people, maybe 1%, probably less than 1% of people carry a tourniquet in their car, but it's the single best life-saving device you can have. And they're cheap. They're cheap. Yeah.
I mean, the normal tourniquets you go and buy in a shop or a first aid place, I just don't carry them because they're too big for. I very rarely wear a coat. I mean, I have a pair of jeans on me, and I'm not going to have big things sticking in my jeans. I just wouldn't carry them. So this has gone back, to my training, military training.
That works.
That it works. And there's the other thing that's in that pocket. It's a little bank line. It's a right good length of bank line, which if you want to put up to make a shelter quickly, I know it's not very thick, but it's strong enough to hold a bit of tarp up or a blanket even, and whatever you've got. And I keep them in this little fifth pocket everywhere I go.
I try to carry the 5 C's in every kit I have. And if you have the room, expand it to 10 C's. But with the 5 C's, you need cordage, right? And just a little bit of cordage, a little bit of forethought, like if you carry one of these a paracord, wrapped knives or something, and then you have shoelaces, that's enough cordage to put a shelter up.
I mean, that's why I like paracord, because you got 7 strands inside it. You can use it for fishing. You can use it for anything like that. I mean, There's another little thing I'll just show you. There's something that, but because this is when you're carrying things that are useful for where your area is. I carry a couple of flies for fishing for trout. There are a couple of flies, hooks for fishing for trout.
Okay, I thought you were saying flies, like that get on your sandwich.
Fly hooks? No, just these are flies. To imitate flies for fishing for trout, and I carry them in the back of my wallet because it'll go with the small bit of string that I have there. If I was stuck, not that I was stuck. If I was out in the forest and I seen a nice little pond and you could see fish jumping, there's nothing to stop you sitting down for half an hour, tying on a bit of that bank line and just throwing it in and see what you get. And you'd be amazed what you can catch with just having a fly.
So I grew up in South Florida. It was a mecca, right? You have the ocean, the beaches, you have the Everglades, not the mountains. That's why I love the mountains. I live in the mountains now. But, just when I grew up, there weren't a lot of people. There was a lot of land, a lot of wildlife, a lot of wild country. And, I taught myself bushcraft and things like that. And I would read, but I would also just try things and try to think about, well, what if I was a Native American or a Neanderthal or, that type of person just living off the land. And one day I went out and there were, I was, like Todd, I just live off the land, right? And so there were some fish, milling around close to the edge of this creek. And I took some rocks and I'm like, I'm wondering if I can kill these fish. So I threw the rock in and it didn't kill them, but it stunned them, right? So 3 or 4 of these fish floated up to the surface just from throwing the rocks in at them. And then I grabbed the fish, right? And so now I've got dinner for the night. So, if you've got something like that, a fly or some other type of, like a treble hook, right? Treble hooks are great for survival. Those type of things in your kit, you've got a much greater chance to live. And recently, like a month ago, this guy walked out of his house. He went hiking and he ended up 10 days in the Sierra Mountains in California. He didn't mean to do that. But if you're prepared for that, you're going to do a lot better than if you're not prepared for it.
Absolutely.
Have you ever tried making a fishing fly out of paracord?
No.
Yeah, and off of things in the wild, right? So using fur from like a rabbit and feathers and stuff like that.
Take a piece of paracord, maybe an inch of paracord, cut that off, and then take about half of that, cut the outer layer off. So you have the 7 strands, run a hook through it, melt the tip around the eye of the hook, fluff your strands up, and you've got a fly.
Now, one thing I haven't done is I haven't, usually I'm combining that with some type of modern technology I have on me, like a metal, I carry, extra strands of metal, like for trapping and stuff like that. But I've never tried like taking bone and honing that into a hook. I'd like to do that one day though.
Well, another thing that I have tried is getting thorns.
Yeah.
And making a hook out of them as well. And you can
work great.
Yeah, it's amazing actually what fish that eat off the surface. It's amazing what they'll go for.
Yeah.
You don't have to have some fancy thing. And that I would love to try. I'm going to try that paracord one. That sounds great. I was just actually showing there. The back of my wallet, I carry 2 flies. Where I'm from, we've got lots of rivers coming down from the mountains to the sea. So you get trout up and down. Some of the rivers have salmon in them. But even a pond that's got perch in it, they'll go for a fly if it's on the surface. If you
Yeah.
present it right on the surface, they'll go for a fly. So
Yeah.
that's just, I'll probably never have to. In fact, I would say these must be about 10-year-old, these flies, but they're still small enough and they look like a fly when you put them on the surface.
Yeah.
So
So
it's just
in the
nice to have.
scheme of time, though, Stephen, in the scheme of time, maybe you carried that for 10 years, maybe 20 years. It's really not a lot of time. And so often the human race has suffered catastrophe over one thing or another, either volcanic or from outer space. And I'm not talking about aliens, I'm talking about asteroids. But you never know. And we're to the point where the average human being, they don't have what you have, and they are not going to be able to survive. It's a shame, that we've come to the stage that human beings. I don't think the internet. I don't think this is reality. It's an experiment, in my opinion, and I think ultimately, those that are going to survive in the world are like the native people of South America or New Guinea, or Africa. The people have maintained the skills that human beings need to survive.
The internet is a wonderful resource.
It is.
You can find and learn anything, but it also makes you very lazy.
Yeah.
If you don't remember anything, you just go look it up when you need it.
And let's be honest. Once AI kicks in completely and we have it up and running properly as what they want it to be, you've no need to go outside your house at all. I mean, you just literally do not need to go outside your house. Anything you want to find out is going to be at hand.
Well, there's movies like that, movies talking about what's coming down the road, where you live your life through a false reality,
But the other good thing about it is that I will say, I mean, I love watching DIY programs. I don't do it. I used to love doing woodwork and things like that and building. I enjoyed that when my kids were younger. I used to sit out in the shed with me and I had all my tools and they'd have a wee screwdriver. But the thing is now, if you want to know how to do something, YouTube is definitely one of the best tools that you have because you can find out how to do anything on YouTube.
Yeah.
Anything you want, there will be a video of it, somebody doing it, from building a house to making a chair. I mean,
you have to practice it though.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, knowledge is a great thing, but if you don't go out and try to start a fire with wet wood, you don't have a clue, right? That's the whole thing about splitting wood up to get to dry wood so that you can start a fire when the weather's in climate. If you've never been in a cold environment, it's a whole different ball game. And so I think, modern life is fine. Enjoy it while you can. But I think you also need to teach your children, teach yourself how to survive, without all the modern conveniences.
It's, I'm going to go back to this again because it's funny. I follow a couple of Canadian families who have moved up into the wilds of Canada, and they're living in the wilds of Canada. And when they go up there, they have very little skills. Some of them have never built anything, and yet they buy this patch of forested land. They go up there and they start building a cabin, and they're actually, the night before, they're watching a YouTube channel on how to do something. And then they, over a period of a year or something, they end up with the most wonderful cabin. They've taken time and they've built and they've learned how to do it. So I think that's the only thing, because we are so intelligent as human beings, it's never too late to learn how to do something.
I agree.
As long as you have a resource like YouTube. I mean, it gets a bad reputation, but there's so many people now, young people, that are doing that and going out and starting a whole new life with their family. And they're learning how to plant potatoes, how to grow veg, put a house together. I
Yeah.
just think it's amazing what they're doing now.
As mentally lazy as YouTube can make you in a way, it's also an amazing resource. There's no excuse for not knowing how to do certain things when you can just literally pick up your phone and there's a video of somebody showing how to do it.
Yeah.
It is. Well, unless you're completely lazy like me and don't know how to use it properly.
Well, it's different. Okay, Stephen, you and I are in a whole different category, right? So, I've been a prepper for a long time, but I told my wife the reality is we're not leaving the house, unless it's overrun, right? Because we're just too old. Not only that, all the resources are at our house, right?
Yeah.
And so I do have packs set up so that if I had to leave my house, I could survive a year out in the wild. I have the things I need. I have snares. I have all the stuff you need. But the reality is sometimes that's the best thing is just stick with your house. I think that whole bug out type of mentality may be overblown, but I also think there's a time when you need to leave.
One of the best tricks I ever used, because again, we're not big hunters over here. It's not one of the things, but one of the things, have I gone or?
No,
Nope.
You're on.
All right. I'm not showing anything. And one of the things that I learned through YouTube, which is one of the best tips I ever got, and I still have them now, is a rat trap.
Yeah, right.
Squirrels and things like that and rabbits can get caught in a rat trap.
Right.
It's one of the simplest ways of catching food. And and I've got a couple of big rat traps in a box down underneath the table where I'm speaking.
Yeah.
And what a simple resource.
And they're affordable. They're affordable.
Yeah. I mean, you can buy them at a couple of pence each. But it's the sort of thing, you stick up in the crook of a tree or something like that. Some squirrel just comes along. There it's got. And there's your fed for the day. There's your meat and protein for the day.
Yeah. When I was a young fella and you couldn't afford a 110 conibear or something like that, wanted to trap squirrels or weasels or something like that, you used a rat trap.
Yeah, and I was blown away whenever I'd seen that on. It was one of the Bushcraft boys was doing it, and I had never even thought of it. Such a simple thing. I mean, to catch a big rat is exactly the same as catching a squirrel. And I just find that's one of the best tips I've ever had. Because no matter where you live, there's going to be even rats. If things get bad, I'll eat a rat. But yeah, I don't know. I love all that. I love talking about it. And I love the fact that I know basically how to do it. I wouldn't be a complete and utter novice. I mean, I haven't done it for years now, but I still know the basics of how to tie. And like making a shelter. I mean, from nothing, if you have nothing, making a shelter, but making it fast, because if the weather's inclement, you need to get dry fast. And to be able to make a shelter and start a wee fire and get yourself warm is such an invaluable thing to be able to do. I mean, a lot of the places around here, we have willow and things like that, and I can knock you up a shelter in half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, and have it covered.
Yep.
It mightn't be perfect, but it's going to keep me out of the wind, the rain, basically. And I don't think the kids, and I think the fun of doing that, even as an adult when I was doing it, the fun of being able to do that and timing yourself and how do I tie this up, it was so much, I had so much fun, literally just fun.
Yeah.
Loved it.
You know what I call squirrels?
Tree rat.
Yeah, tree rats. That's all they are. They're just a
rat with
a fluffy tail.
I'll eat a rat. I mean, I have a railway line to the right-hand side of me here. If I threw a couple of traps over that fence with a bit of string, I guarantee by tomorrow morning I'll have a rat or two.
I could live probably 2 months with the game I have. Like I threw a seed out. So, man, everything you could think of comes to my house. I've had foxes, deer, raccoons, possums, turtles, everything you could think of. The other day we had a groundhog visiting us. So, but my wife says I can't kill them. And I'm like, babe, the world's coming to an end. The squirrels are gone.
One of the other things I learned, the fun things about, doing this sort of stuff and taking it out, was a catapult. I mean, I hadn't used catapult since I was a child, and then I'm in my 40s, and I'm out in the forest practicing a catapult, with a tin can.
Yeah.
Again,
now you're talking. Now, let me just explain that, Stephen, for those who don't speak English. You're talking about a slingshot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
I mean,
Americans, when you say catapult, they're thinking about the siege on Buckingham Palace or something.
Fire and stone, yeah.
But it's a slingshot.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
there was I can't think of him. He was a big outdoors guy. He has a big channel. He used to do all the survival TV shows and whatnot. And he came up with a slingshot that would shoot an arrow.
An arrow, I can remember that. Yeah, that was Dave Canterbury, wasn't it?
Dave Canterbury, yeah.
Yeah,
so I went out, I saw that, and I went out and got a slingshot and a piece of PVC pipe.
Yep.
And put some paracord, little notch in the basket of the slingshot for paracord, and made one of those in like half an hour.
Yeah. I mean, the other simple way I done with it was a thin bit of plastic tubing, but quite thick, and you run the paracord right through it and just bring it over the top, and you can tie it up and slip it back in again. You can feed it back, and you've got a good enough strong bow. So you're only going to shoot, 10 yards at the most?
Yeah. But the Indians used to use tendons, right? Like when they took a deer down, they used everything. Everything. The bone, the tendons, the meat, the skin, everything. The brains, right? So they would brain tan the skins, and so
but it's funny. If you were to ask a 21-year-old man now any of this stuff, and this is just us talking, I mean, Todd, you'd be the expert, probably over me anyway. But I mean, just to be able to talk and think of how things were and be able to replicate it is such an exciting thing to do. It really is.
Well, you're the oldest fart on the channel, so you would be the expert.
And boy, do I feel it. But I'm like you. I'm not running. I'm staying where I am.
One of the more fascinating things I did was I've gone to sweat lodges a lot with native friends. I've got friends that are native elders.
What's a sweat lodge?
Sweat lodge is...
Now, this is a clean channel, Todd. This is a clean channel. Be careful here.
It's a sauna on steroids.
Okay.
I'll put it that way. Basically, you build
men get naked and sweat.
You build a dome shelter. We wear shorts.
Okay.
But you build a dome shelter, usually out of willow or something like that, or alders. And then you dig a pit in the center, and then you take lava rock and put that into a bonfire. And then through the ceremony, they bring the rocks in, set them in the center. And then through the ceremony, you pour water over the rocks. And then the steam billows up and goes down through the dome. And there's a lot of spiritual stuff to it and ceremony to it.
Yeah.
But, and it gets, I used to sauna a lot. I'd take a cold piece of toilet paper and put it over the sensor to get it hotter. I thought I knew hot till I got into a sweat lodge.
Yeah.
But to build one of those was just fascinating to see how they did it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, great way of keeping yourself clean too.
All right. Hey guys, man, we got to do this again, okay? And really, we need to talk about more about survival, I guess. We're getting some good comments here on that, but we're an hour and a half into this, so I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. So y'all in the comment sections, say goodbye to each other. I really, really appreciate y'all dropping in, and I hope that you check out Pocket EDC. I really like his channel, man. It's different, okay, and that's special because a lot of channels are just knives or just this. He mixes knives in with other things, and I just think it's entertaining. So I hope that you all will check him out, and we're going to let you go here in a couple minutes. Stephen, do you have anything to say?
I'd just like to thank Todd very much because it opened up, although we started with knives, he opened up that subject that sort of, I think the over 40 generation sort of love to talk about childhood and the way they were brought up. And maybe if it just sparks a little bit of interest in somebody out there who's just come about looking for knives, there's so much more that goes into. The knife was the first man's tool, first proper tool. And take away all this bad rep that knives get and things like that. Once you get into the YouTube community like this, like knives or bushcraft, you're going to find knowledge that you'd either forgotten or you're going to relearn again, like I did, in 40, started bushcraft. And my wife thought I was bonkers. I used to go out in hailstorms just to practice what it was like setting up a shelter in rain. And honestly, she thought I had lost my marbles completely. But yeah, knives, bushcraft, they're all sort of linked because it's using a tool for different effects and using equipment for different effects. I mean, I have stuff here I'll maybe never use, but I've got it. And I suppose that's the prepping. But I'm not big into prepping. It's not something that I ever got into. I always have extra food in the house because I have a shape to keep. But yeah, thank you, Todd. It really did open up a nice chat tonight. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'll follow your channel, and we'll see how your channel goes. I'm really looking forward to getting into that now.
I think you just like Todd because he has an English heritage. So
no, not English.
Todd, what do you got to say here before we clock out and say goodbye to everybody?
I just said thank you for having me on the show, and
Pleasure.
It was a great, fun conversation. And
I enjoyed it. And I know it's kind of hard to follow, but a lot of positive comments about you being on the channel. I know you were apprehensive. I am so glad that you came on the channel. I hope everybody goes out and subscribes to your channel because it's awesome. I like it. And I like you, Todd. And thank you so much.
You're giving me stuff to live up to now.
Yeah, you don't have to live up to nobody.
I have a wee channel too, so I'll give you a shout out in my channel and let people get over and see you. Hopefully, I'll be doing a wee video probably tomorrow. So it's nice to see, and I hope you enjoy the journey as much as I have, because I have had an absolute ball in this journey.
I'll tell you what, this has been just the whole knife brotherhood thing has just been an excellent experience. Just encounter so many people with a common interest, but also just such a great group of people. I mean, it's you would think in an environment like this where everybody has their own channel, typically people would be competing to try and rise to the top. In this community, I mean, you walk in here as somebody new, and everybody welcomes you with open arms and does everything they can to try and uplift your channel.
Yeah,
it's.
And one of the biggest things that I like is that when you have a YouTube channel, is getting other people on who have got fledgling channels. That's the joy. And it's like anything, you get somebody starting into something that you've got passion about, to build their passion up, you have to bring them into you.
Patty, what is the deal with that stupid cow behind you?
I painted that of my wife.
You painted it?
Yeah.
I love it.
That was her with makeup on one day, and I just thought I would capture the moment.
Don't say that. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she also has a hand painted one of me. Look.
Oh yeah. Okay. I see the likeness.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Hey, can I just say thank you so much, Stephen, for being on the channel. I love
Oh,
your
it's a pleasure.
support. It means a lot to me. And I just want to say that over time, I feel like, Stephen's a close friend of mine. And so thank you so much for supporting the channel. And thank you so much, Todd, for coming on. I hope it's good for you. I enjoyed it. I think you got a lot to offer the community. And so I hope and pray and wish you good luck on your journey as your channel grows. And I think you got a lot to offer, brother. Don't be afraid to stick it out there and seize the opportunity.
Appreciate it.
If I could give you one piece of advice, don't worry about the numbers. Forget about the numbers in the beginning. I know we all want to get there and we want to get to 1,000, and that's a great push and it's a great achievement. But really don't worry about it. That's one thing I've learned over time is do not worry about the numbers, because people will grow to your personality, and that takes time. And the more people you get who are close, their subscribers are going to stay. They're not going to pop in for a day and then you'll not see them again. And that's what you want. And your personality's fine. You'll succeed if you want it.
Open.
Stephen has like 12,000 subscribers. That's about 10% of total number of people that look. He has a huge audience. And then just look at Stephen. I don't mean to be critical, Stephen.
Why do I feel something bad's going to come out of your mouth?
So, just go at it and you'll do great, Todd.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping, I'm not looking to be a YouTube star or anything like that, or make $1 million doing this or anything like that. I just hope that right down to it, that I'd like to see some young fellas and some young gals take an interest in this stuff and realize that, things like knives aren't scary.
Yeah,
they're something that have been part of our lives since we made them out of rocks.
Yeah.
And,
do you want
just
to know
to be able to develop some self-sufficiency and some skills on your own. And, I'd like to see some of the younger folks, gravitate towards some of that stuff.
Yeah. Before we leave, Todd, we were supposed to talk about knife laws in Canada, and we didn't. So I hope at some point you'll come back and talk about those.
Oh, I'd love to.
Things. Okay.
Yeah, that's a bad subject. Knife laws. There's a waste of energy.
Not
do you have anything else, Stephen?
Right. No. I was just going to say, Todd, what you're asking, you love to see young people coming in. It's actually starting to happen. There's more young people now. We actually have a girl in the UK who's she's a single mother of 2 children, and she came into it by sheer accident. And she just kept following, kept commenting, she's quiet on the side, just commenting. She's now a full part of the community. Her 2 children, who are 8 and 10, have got their own knives now. She's teaching them how to do their knives. And that's just amazing, mind-blowing. It's just lovely. When you get in, it's amazing. And she's she's a young mother. She's not a mature mother, a young mother. And she's getting her kids into knives at 8 and 10. I think that's marvelous.
It is, yeah.
And it is happening slowly but surely.
All right, I'm gonna cut it off, guys.
You can 10 minutes. Shut the bloody
hang on for a minute, okay? Hang on for a minute. And so thank you so much for your support, checking out the channel and all that you all do. I really, really appreciate the audience, and I love your comments and participation. Thanks again, and we're going to go ahead and end it for today.
Sure. Take care.
Bye.
Take care. Be handy.